What's going on, guys? Welcome back. And today I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. I just saw it today on Saturday. This will probably be going up on Sunday, though. Um, so I guess we're going to talk about this movie. Like, I will be going in depth into spoilers because this movie is basically. I'm not going to spoil anything yet, but I'll give you a warning when I get into spoilers. But this movie is basically a huge spoiler, and it's basically just a huge twist in itself. And that's kind of what the whole point of the movie is. It's basically a twist within a twist within a twist. It's a crazy movie. It's much crazier than Homecoming. There's a lot more going on. It's absolutely insane, this movie. Um, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad film. I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's good. I would say if I were to put it among the other Spider-Man films, I like it more than the first two Raimi films and the two Mark Webb films, but not more than Homecoming, Spider-Man 3, or Spider-Verse. But it's still a very solid MCU entry. I think it suffers a little bit from being the film to bridge the gap between Phase 4 and Endgame, or Endgame and Phase 4. And I guess Jake Gyllenhaal, who is the newest addition to the cast. I'll get more in-depth into spoilers about him later, but he's a great new addition. Not sure what I thought of his character, though, by the end of the film. Tom Holland as Peter Parker is great. All the characters, there's some great rapport between all the characters, some great comedy, some great emotional depth, and by the end of it, it's a pretty dark message that they're trying to portray through the film, and it surprised me. The film definitely surprised me, not in the ways you'd expect, though. Yeah, that's pretty much it on this non-spoiler section. I want to talk about spoilers because there's a lot I have to say about this film, so if you haven't seen the film yet, click off now. I recommend you see it and make up your own opinion about it. Yeah, so if you haven't seen the film, click off now. But if you have seen the film and you want to hear my full thoughts on it, this will probably be a long one, so strap yourselves in. So first off, I wanted to talk about what they did with Mysterio, and I did definitely speculate that, everyone thought he was going to be the villain. I thought from the trailers and clips and stuff, he looked way too nice. And part of me thought maybe that's the whole thing. They're trying to make him seem too nice, but he actually is nice. No, he is definitely the villain. And I definitely expected it would be holograms or whatever, or but I did not expect him to have worked for Tony and to have this whole gang of Stark tech, rejected Stark employees, and there's the guy from the first Iron Man, the guy that Obadiah Stane yells at, the Tony Stark built this in the cave with a box of scraps. That guy, he's actually a major player on Mysterio's whole little crew, which is pretty interesting. Jake Gyllenhaal definitely elevated the material because I think the character would be pretty bad without the acting from Jake Gyllenhaal. He gives him some great depth. I haven't seen him in too much else, but I think he definitely injects, from what I've heard from his role in Nightcrawler, I think he injects this role with a little bit of that. With a little bit of that, added in, but, the twist was expected, but the idea that, he actually had this whole gang of people that he was working with, that surprised me. What else do I have to talk about? I'm trying to think of what else I have written down. So Mysterio is pretty good, although I don't understand his motivation, how he says to everyone, we are Mysterio, and and then at the end he says, Peter's like, why did you do this? And he says, something along the lines of, people need to believe in something, and nowadays they'll believe in anything, and people are in this area of life, where Tony Stark is gone, and Mysterio's trying to fill in, so he's creating these fake scenarios where he is the hero, and that's exactly what he was in the comics, and that's what everyone thought he would be in this film. So that definitely wasn't a surprise at all. But I definitely liked the way they executed it. The special effects on him, or on Mysterio, I wouldn't say they're great, but they definitely, they're pretty good, and I think a lot of the visuals are pretty good. The action sequences, which we'll talk about later, are great. Mysterio, I did enjoy the character. I think I prefer Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming because he's more sympathetic. He kind of just Mysterio goes a little bit off the rails for me towards the end. I liked the message they tried to portray, because when he's, sending Peter through all those illusions, it honestly, those scenes kind of horrified me and disturbed me, because it was like no one should be allowed to have this power to like make someone forget about reality. You know, like it's honestly kind of a disturbing concept to have someone like this in this higher seat of power that they don't deserve, and that allows them to have this power over people. It was kind of disturbing to me, and I really appreciate that about the character, but I didn't entirely like um, some of the directions they took with the character. Like the motives were like, uh, there will be casualties, but I will be the new hero. But it's like, you're gonna kill everybody? Like, you want to be perceived as a hero, but if you kill people, then... But at the same time, you know, it was all an illusion, but still, I don't understand, like, how did he destroy that entire town in Mexico in the opening scene? By the way, that opening scene was a credit scene that they added to Avengers Endgame, so if you want to see the Avengers Endgame re-release, don't bother, because that scene is literally the opening scene of this movie. Um, but, you know, that's pretty much all I have to say about Mysterio. I enjoyed the character. Jake Gyllenhaal injected it with a lot of great charisma and a lot of depth that it probably wouldn't have had without his acting and performance. But that whole character, without him, probably wouldn't have been much for me. I think overall he's one of the better MCU villains, but personally I prefer Vulture, because he had that extra bit of humanity to him. Moving on, I'm going to talk about the other characters. They all had some great rapport. Like, I love that scene when Happy was, like, hiding all the kids in the museum towards the end, which means the accessory pack was actually somewhat accurate, so that's kind of cool. But I like that scene. I like seeing Happy interact with the kids, which is something I did not expect to see. So that was great. They all added their little bit of comedic value. Although the one thing I do think is that they should have developed probably more of the side of Peter, where the side of Peter where he says, you know, I feel like everyone's asking for the next Iron Man. And in the trailer, they have that scene where, you know, he beats up all those criminals in that, wherever that is, and then all the police officers are, like, security officers are there, and they're like, hey, are you gonna be the next Iron Man? He's like, no, I'm too busy doing your jobs. That was cut out, and I think that would have added to the character depth of, you know, we actually do see people asking him if he's gonna be the next Iron Man. That would have added to that depth in that, like, area of the character. I would have preferred that personally, than just having him say it. I think that would have added more to it, and I think they could have really cut out that whole thing with the love triangle character. They add in this character, what's his name? Brad Davis, and he's kind of supposed to be another romantic rival for MJ, and they adds for this pretty funny scene where they're on the bus, and he puts on the new glasses. I was really sad not to see Karen come back. They add in this new artificial intelligence through these glasses, Tony's old glasses. I don't know how Tony programmed that. Like, did he program those glasses for Peter before the snap, or did he program those for Peter before he went back in time in Endgame? Because he wouldn't have known that he would have succeeded. So I don't really understand that area of the film. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Other than that, Peter Parker was a great character. I love Tom Holland as the character. He's my favorite Peter Parker for sure. And he like, when not a lot of movies can make me tear up when they're just kind of supposed to be these fun action summer movies, but when he's, you know, opening up to Happy and he's saying, you know, how like all these people have betrayed him and have hurt him, and you know, he just doesn't feel like he can like live up to the pressure that everyone's putting on him, and how he just wants to, you know, like live his normal life. Like that made me tear up. Like, that actually didn't make me fall and cry, but it definitely made me tear up. So that's a credit to Tom Holland's acting. He is an incredible actor, and that scene was brilliant, in its direction and acting and all that. Um, I did think some of the gags I think went a little too far. Like it's literally like this gag of Ned and Betty Brant dating, and then by the end of the film, the gag just ends, and it's kind of like, okay, so what was the point of this gag? Was it just for this film? Because you didn't need this gag in here. It just kind of, because like, it's like you just see them sitting together, and it just seems like Ned's annoying her, and then when they get there, it's like, we're dating. It's supposed to be like this weird gag, and it's supposed to not make sense, but it's the one part of this film where a lot of the film feels goofy, but it does make sense in this MCU world where everything's kind of goofy. um, and cartoony, but that one part felt a little bit too goofy compared to some other areas of the film, like Mysterio's motivation felt a lot more grounded in reality. Like, I was not ready for this character to be like this interdimensional guy from a different reality. And I'm glad they didn't do that, because I didn't want them pushing in this whole thing of multiverse into this, my Spider-Man movie, which is about a high schooler. And I think that the movie, once again, suffered a little bit from having to follow up Endgame and explaining it. And even though they do explain how it worked, the snap happened, and then the blip, as they call it, and they show, like, these people in the gym just, like having sports, and then people start disappearing, and then 5 years later they just pop back into existence, and it's kind of cartoony, and it's funny because I was wondering, how does that work? Like, when they come back, do they just pop back into existence? And they do. Although, and it also does answer the question that I had of, do they just come back to the exact spot where they died? And they do. But they don't really explain how, because it feels like society isn't really having trouble with it at all. And it doesn't bother me that they make jokes out of it, because some of that stuff is inherently pretty stupid and cartoony in Endgame, but it's like, it doesn't really show, like, the significance of that. It's like Aunt May's like, I popped back into my house, and I thought they said, the Russo brothers said that Aunt May survived the snap, but I guess she didn't. But she said, I blipped back into my apartment, and my neighbors were very confused or something, and I'm like, you're not, like, what happened after that, though? You're playing it off as a joke, but, like, what actually happened there? Like, did you have to, like, get a new apartment, or, like, what happened? Like, I don't know, it's kind of confusing. I think that Flash didn't get snapped away, because he has facial hair now, and MJ says, hey, he got snapped away, or he got blipped, so it's like, okay. Conveniently, it's very convenient that all of the classmates disappeared in the snap. But, you know, that's all I have to mention there, really. So yeah, the humor was pretty good, but there's some gags, once again, like the Ned and Betty Brant stuff, that I just felt was kind of weird and felt too cartoony. And once again, I do think the film suffered a little bit from having to follow up Endgame and explain all these things where it could have been more streamlined. And, but then once again so yeah, that's it for that. Then moving on to, once again, the character they added in, Brad Davis. They really love having characters with Davis in their last name, because Aaron Davis was in the last movie. But anyway, they have this whole scene where Peter accidentally orders a missile strike when all he wanted was for them to get rid of the photo on the guy's phone. And it just feels like it takes away from time they could have had, like that deleted scene, apparently, where, you know, he's fighting the guys, and then the people are like, are you going to be the next Iron Man? And a lot of scenes from the trailers that seem to be cut, I think they could have added that in, because a lot of those scenes seem to have more depth. And it's just, the whole scene is like 5 minutes, and it's just a comedic scene. Like, all it is there for comedy, and it feels like it goes off from the main direction of the film, and that happens a few times, so the comedy can be trouble, but I think the comedy works for the most part. What else do I have to say? I guess we'll talk about the twists. Now, there were basically 2 twists in the end of the movie. One, I was like, oh, why is there was a guy encrypting some stuff on, like, a thumb drive or something after the Mysterio death? I thought it was really also pretty, heartbreaking when Peter was like, is this an illusion, when Mysterio, like, was dead? And then they were like, no, all the illusions have been lifted. And it just felt really impactful, because, like, Peter's like, wow, I actually killed someone. Like, and I didn't expect them to kill him, because I thought they were going to do Sinister Six, but he's dead. So, because they didn't kill Vulture either, so I didn't expect them to kill him, but they did kill him. And that's pretty ballsy for this, like, summer Spider-Man movie that I think a lot more children are going to see, younger kids. I think it got pretty dark. That got pretty dark in that degree, and I think that was very well done. Although it does just feel kind of undercut by the next scene, but I think that the MJ-Peter romance was pretty cute. I think they have much better chemistry than Liz and Peter in Homecoming, and I think that it once again feels more genuine than something like the Sam Raimi films, but once again I think that the Sam Raimi films worked for what they were going for. But I definitely feel the chemistry more between Tom Holland and Zendaya than I did between Tom and or Peter and Liz in Homecoming. So let's talk about the twists. There's two twists. So in the post-credits scene, a news report goes up saying that there was leaving where the movie left off, which the beginning of the post-credit scene was shown in one of the trailers, which is kind of weird. But it's revealed that there was a video taken right before Mysterio died, which I don't understand how Mysterio would have taken that video, because they say that it was taken seconds before Quentin Beck died. But we saw the whole action of that scene, and you see Peter, like, with the glasses on saying, disable all the things. But they edited it to make it seem like Peter did command the airstrike, because he says initiate all targets, not, like, dismantle all them or abort all the missile strikes, or whatever the heck. I don't know, I just felt that was really weird, because it's like, we saw that whole scene from Peter's perspective, and he didn't get time to make a video. But I think that it was probably cooked up by that guy who did the encryption, because you see the guy from the first Iron Man, when Obadiah was yelling at him, who was on Quentin's team, you see him encrypting something. I think that's the video. I think that's what he was encrypting. So it says, and then in the video, it cuts off. He says, Spider-Man's real name is, and that cuts off. But then it comes back and he says, Peter Parker's real name is Peter, or Spider-Man's real name is Peter Parker. And then he's like, what? But right before that, they show the Daily Bugle. They're like, this is something, the Daily Bugle. And then they showed J. Jonah Jameson played by J.K. Simmons, and I was like, man. Like, I got really annoyed because, I don't like the whole cheering in theaters thing, and everyone did that at J. Jonah Jameson when he popped up, and I was in a respectful theater for basically the whole movie until the end of the movie when it ended, which was fine. It was kind of small applause, but then when that happened, they kind of were like, woo, and it was J.K. Simmons, and, honestly, thinking back on it, I don't really mind, because that is pretty exciting. So it shows J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, and I think that's a great choice, because I can't think of anyone else who can portray that character as well as him. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that in a future Spider-Man sequel. And then at the end of the credits, you see Nick Fury and Maria Hill driving in a car, and then it's revealed that it was actually Talos and his wife from Captain Marvel. Now, I think that was pretty cool, and I just feel like it was just kind of for shock value, and didn't have much of substance in the film itself, because it just feels like, so all the emotional depth that we had with Nick Fury, Peter, and Maria Hill in this film, it's just, that was a Skrull the whole time. They were Skrulls the whole time. I don't know, that just kind of bothers me, but it does set up, I guess, secret invasion or whatever they want to do with that. And it's just weird, that whole scene's like a twist within a twist, because the first twist is they were Skrulls. Second twist is he's at the beach. Third twist, he wasn't at the beach, he's on a ship. Fourth twist, he's on this ship where all these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and Skrulls are together. So I guess I feel like Captain Marvel, I enjoyed that film, but I feel like it kind of, I rewatched it recently, and I like it less than I did the first time. But does that mean that this whole time, does that mean that this whole time Nick Fury has been a Skrull? Was he a Skrull at the funeral? Like, at Tony's funeral? That completely takes away the emotion of that scene where he's standing on the porch. Like, what does this mean for the rest of the movies? Like, does that mean that from, like, all this time, because now the Captain Marvel's out, there's been a time gap, does that mean, like, through all these movies, Nick Fury's been, like, sitting in space, and it's just been the Skrulls? Like, that's the thing, it creates a plot hole where it's like, wow, all this depth we've had with Nick Fury could be taken away, because they could just say, hey, this is a Skrull. Like, it's just kind of like it's another twist to add on, and I think it's cool for fans of Captain Marvel, but for people who haven't watched Captain Marvel, I'm saying this to you now, I wouldn't recommend you stay for that scene. It doesn't really add anything for you. So it was cool to see that, but I don't think it added to the film at all, and it takes away from, like, there's a really cute moment with Nick Fury and Hill where, like, he's looking out the window, and Beck has a drone pointed at him. He's like, you got me? And then Hill shoots it down, and she's like, I got you. Like, that's a really cute moment, but now it's like, oh, great. Now we know it was just Skrulls the whole time. Like, I don't know, it just takes away all the emotional value that we had with those characters in this film itself. And I'm just kind of worried as to what they're going to do with Captain Marvel, because it's been like 25 years or something, 26 years or something. It's been a long time. Or no, it's probably been like 30 now, that like the 5-year gap. So like it's been a long time since we've seen the Skrulls, so I'm just worried as to how many plot holes this could create for future MCU films. But I'm looking forward to that, but I'm not sure if I'm entirely on board with the story they're going to tell from this point on. Anyway, I'm babbling on about the post-credit scene. I think it was cool. It was a cool reveal, but I don't really think it really works in this film. It's just kind of a weird twist to add in this film. It doesn't add anything to the film, in my opinion, and kind of takes away from the emotional value we already had with those characters. Um, so wrapping it up, I think Spider-Man: Far From Home is almost on par with Homecoming. I just think that Homecoming executed some of the comedy better, um, and was better at it being a standalone film and using the MCU as a more interesting backbone than this film, where it kind of just really has to explain a lot of stuff after Endgame, which I think was kind of a problem in this film and kind of took away from some things where it could have been a more standalone film. Some of the comedy goes off and kind of distracts from the main direction of the film, but it's a very sweet film. It's very funny. It's a feel-good summer action movie. Also, the action scenes when like he's fighting Mysterio in that hallway are very creative. Like, it's some of the most creative action, some of the best Spider-Man action I've ever seen. Like, I thought that the colors and all of it, it was just great visually. It's some of the best visual stuff in the MCU I've seen since Doctor Strange. But yeah, so ending it off, I think I like it less than Homecoming, just by a little bit, but I think they're almost on par, and I think it's a very solid MCU entry. But I think it suffered a little bit from being the follow-up to Endgame, but, you know, in the end, I think it's a solid film, a solid Spider-Man movie, and, yeah, I might do, like, another video on it if I want to talk about more stuff. Let me know if you'd like to see another video where I talk about more stuff, but this video has gone on for 21 minutes now. So I'm going to give this movie, like, a B+, I think. Yeah, I think in terms of quality, it's on par with Homecoming, but I like Homecoming a bit more. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think of Spider-Man: Far From Home. This one seems to be polarizing among some people, not among critics, but among fans. I'm seeing a lot of different reactions. So let me know, what do you think of Spider-Man: Far From Home? And what did you think of my review in the comments as well? And I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.